There's two important points to make. The first is that this is not about science. Bess helped to co-write this report. It's an activist report. It's not science. I looked at the report expecting to find lots of data tables, and it's not that. It's an advocacy report. They're entitled to do that, but they're not entitled to tell us that the science says thus and so, and therefore you can't disagree with us.
Before you go to your second point, should I just take that up with Bess? Bess, it's not science. This is just opinion.
Oh, I'm afraid this absolutely is science. There are hundreds of studies from across the world involving hundreds of thousands of children. The science is absolutely settled on the harms of physical punishment now. That's why the World Health Organization, many governments around the world are taking this issue very, very seriously.
So, but your objection, Simon, is that I said this is what experts think and actually is what campaigners think.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Bess refers to the hundreds of studies. Look, what happens is every 6 to 12 months, a campaign organisation issues what they call a landmark report about smacking. And every time, I end up touring the studios like this, explaining why it's just recycling the same old activist research.
So tell us, fundamentally then, if it's about opinion, tell us why you think parents should be allowed to smack.
Well, that brings me to the second point, because the reasonable chastisement defence only protects parents who do reasonable things. If a child is abused, if you do anything to a child which leaves any kind of mark whatsoever, that's unreasonable chastisement and it is already illegal. So this is at the lowest possible level, a mum tapping the tot on the back of a hand. Bess's colleague has admitted on air repeatedly that he wants the ban to outlaw a mum tapping a tot on the back of a hand.
Is that right,
Most
Bess?
people think that's crazy.
Well, children should have the same rights under assault as anybody else. You're not allowed to assault anybody else, and it covers all assault. Of course, law doesn't get involved in trivial issues, and that applies to all assault. So that would apply to parents and children as well. But of course, children should have the same comprehensive legal protection from assault as adults.
What about the example that's often given is a perfectly sensible, well-intentioned mother or father is getting really worried that their child keeps running into traffic, and they have to say, look, if you do that again, I will smack you. And they do it again.
I mean, I always find that example kind of strange, because I think, yes, you want to protect your children from danger, of course, but hitting them doesn't help them to be protected. It actually stops them from thinking well about the situation. So
it's I'm just giving that as examples. It's an emergency where the priority is them not dying because they're hit by a car.
Well, I think there are lots of injuries from parents pulling children out of the road, and of course that's completely understandable. But hitting a child at that point really makes no sense and isn't justifiable, I don't think.
Simon, what about that? If you hit a child, you basically say that this is what I'm telling you isn't rational.
Well, I mean, the word hitting keeps being used, and I just want to say if a parent strikes a child in a way which leaves a mark, then that's already illegal.
But if them, right?
The tap on the back of the legs, the tap on the back of the hand, that's the level that we're talking about. And I think that that's the level at which parents ought to be allowed to make that decision for themselves. In Wales, when the Welsh Government was debating this, they admitted that changing the law would mean that a mum who straps an uncooperative toddler into a car seat would be breaking the law. This is the problem. You're bringing the law.
There's no blow there, is there?
And yet the Welsh Government Children's Minister went on the record to say that, and I think he was correct, that would be caught by the law. Yes, because if you remove the reasonable chastisement defence, then these reasonable actions start to become a matter for the police. I mean, in Scotland, the Scottish Government have banned smacking. For months, they told us this is not about criminalising parents. Day one of the new law coming into force, they issued guidance saying, if you see a parent smack a child, dial 999. So it's very much about criminalising parents.
I suppose best people in England can have got the advantage of being able to see if it's working in Scotland and Wales. Is it?
Well, exactly. I mean, you can look at Scotland and Wales and the other 65 states around the world that have passed this legislation, and it absolutely is working. Number one, there are no increased prosecutions and chargings of parents. There is much greater opportunity to intervene with support and advice. But number two, very importantly, this law leads to huge reductions in the use and acceptance of physical punishment of children and other forms of violence against children. It's a really effective measure for protecting children, and it doesn't involve criminalising or involving parents in the criminal justice system. It just sends a much clearer message about what is effective parenting.
Because Simon Calvert, the problem with your argument, surely, is that we haven't seen these crazy cases that you say we will see. England hasn't seen them in Wales and Scotland. So you haven't had a prosecution for somebody who straps their child into a car, for example?
Well, the answer to that is we don't know, because the Scottish Government and the Welsh Government won't give us the figures. They won't give breakdowns for prosecutions.
The media will tell you, don't you worry, that'll be a full page in the Daily Mail.
Prosecution, there's no breakdown for when this law is being
know.
used.
If there are crazy cases, we'll know.
Well, Bess mentioned other countries. I mean, for a start off, of the 65 countries, most of them have not done what Bess is calling for us to do, which is to make it a criminal offence for a parent to tap a tot. They've done other things, civil law things, and so forth. Secondly, look at New Zealand, the Chen Palmer report confirming that parents have been dragged into the criminal justice system by their ban on smacking. And so I think that is inevitable. And as I say, Bess's colleague, Professor Andrew, is admitting that he does want these trivial taps to be caught by the law.
Why not just leave it to the parents, Bess, and trust them?
Well, parents are doing an incredibly important job, but they deserve the best information about how to raise children. And when the evidence is so conclusive now that physical punishment of children harms children in so many ways, including their relationship with their parents deserve to know that and deserve to have access to support to develop other methods of raising children.
But most
parents want that.
But people are listening to this who were smacked themselves as a child, and they know that what you've just said isn't true. And that's the problem. We can...
you mean it doesn't destroy the relationship with the parent?
Yes. And it's like the claim that sort of smacking teaches violence. Well, a tap on a tot's hand no more teaches them violence than sending them to their room teaches adults to imprison other adults. It's a silly comparison. The relationship between parents and their children is unique. It's sacrosanct. We have to trust parents and not criminalise them over these trivial issues.